Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a great start to your finally Friday. And here it is, our first winter weather event of the year in Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley knocking on our doorstep. Snow looking likely within the next 30 minutes or so. And let's get right to it. Let's take a look at the latest High Heat and Cooling Mega Doppler so we can get a look at what's going on now. You'll notice here on this map that we've got precipitation starting to develop off to our east right now, as well as that main piece of energy off to our west. Now, most of this that's going on near Harrison and Mountain Home is likely not reaching the ground. And if it is, it's very light at this time. That's because we have a lot of dry air in place right now. We're going to need a little bit more precipitation to cool the air around us and allow this precip to actually reach the ground here in Northwest Arkansas. So that's why there's a little bit of a delay right now in terms of the precipitation that's showing up on radar and that precip actually reaching the ground at this time. But you can see we're starting to see a little bit of a mixture show up in portions of NWA along the I-49 corridor above our heads. And this is very important because the temperatures right now are either right at freezing or a little bit above it in Northwest Arkansas. And so we have a process that we call dynamic cooling, where more precipitation falls. That allows the atmosphere and the air around it to cool. And that gives us that chance for snow later on this morning through about lunchtime. So that's what we're looking at right now currently on radar. Of course, this setup is very interesting because if we take a look at those temperatures right now, you're going to see that in most locations in Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley, we are at or above freezing. Let's zoom in a little bit closer here to Benton County. Notice 32 degrees across the board from Bentonville, Rogers to XNA, 33 in Silent Springs, actually 35 degrees in Fayetteville right now, which is actually a little bit above what the models are showing. It got down to 30 degrees last night in Fayetteville, but because of all that cloud cover, I talked about it yesterday, those temperatures warmed up again. And that's why I was going to be really surprised if we were in the 20s anywhere along the I-49 corridor. Now, if we go a little bit farther south towards the River Valley, very similar story. Those protected valley areas, higher terrain of the River Valley, a little bit colder. So Boonville's sitting at 32 degrees, Fort Smith, Salisaw each at 34. And check out Poto at 37 degrees right now. So this is good right here. We don't want a whole lot of impacts this morning with this winter weather. As long as these temperatures can stay right around freezing or just above it, we're going to see limited impacts. However, check out Harrison, check out Boone, Newton, Madison County, those darker blues showing up on the map. That is much colder weather, and that is the area that we are favoring right now for higher precipitation rates as well as the chance for more significant snowfall. So let's take a look at that latest winter weather advisory. It's in effect for all of our Arkansas counties and our weather coverage areas, so Southwest Missouri, Eastern Oklahoma, not included in that. But this winter weather advisory started about 30 minutes ago. It goes until about noon today. And it is for snow accumulation up to 2 inches. Now, you may be looking at that saying, okay, that means 2 inches in Fayetteville. That means 2 inches in Bella Vista, right? That's on the higher end, right? And so you notice that winter weather advisory includes Newton and Madison County. Those are going to be the counties that are favored for that 2-inch amount. So you see right here, these two counties near St. Paul, Jasper, up towards Eureka Springs. These areas are going to be favored for higher snowfall, while I-49 and Interstate 40 get lesser snowfall totals. And I do think that this precipitation is going to start off as a rain-snow mixture once it actually reaches the ground, but transition to all snow as it lifts off to the north and east. You can see some heavy bands going on near the Eufaula area right now. I am a little concerned that we might have heavy enough snowfall rates that the snow sticks anyway, despite those temperatures being above freezing. But again, it is going to be a struggle, and it is going to be a little bit of a process as that low pressure system continues to eject onto these. Pretty strong low pressure system. It's swinging off that energy right now, but notice that pesky dry slot. If you're a snow lover, this is something you don't like to see. This dry slot right here, bringing in all that dry air into Northwest Arkansas. And I do think it's lining up with our area right now, just because that low pressure system is already starting to eject off to the north and east. So here's the latest future track. Here's the latest timing that we're expecting with this particular storm system. Now, you can look at a ton of models. They're all going to have a different solution. This model is a little bit too cold because it's 35 degrees right now in Fayetteville, and this model says it's going to be 32 within the next 30 minutes. I don't know if that's going to be the case unless we get some heavy precipitation within the next 30 minutes or so. But notice how we're starting off with that rain-snow mixture across the area. Temperatures in the upper 20s in the higher terrain of Northwest Arkansas right around 5, 6 o'clock. I do think the precip will start reaching the ground right around 5:30 to 6 a.m., and that's where we're going to start seeing that transition to all snow up and down the I-49 corridor. And again, the snow could be a little bit heavy at times, especially between 7 to 10 o'clock. I think that's going to be that sweet spot for the heavier snowfall in NWA. But again, with temperatures at 32 degrees or just a little bit above that, it will be a bit of a struggle to stick. So this is why you need to be weather aware this morning. I know a lot of folks are going to be going to work, going to be going to school this morning. This is not going to cause widespread impacts. This is not going to cause widespread ice on the roadways, but you need to take it nice and easy. Go about 10 to 15 miles per hour below the speed limit. Give yourself a few extra minutes to get to where you're going, and you should be A-okay this morning. Now, if you're driving in the higher terrain of Northwest Arkansas towards Eureka Springs, towards Highway 412, you're going to want to be even more careful because there is a potential for some more impacts along the highways and interstates, especially those back roads in those areas. But notice we get to about 9 o'clock, and here comes the dry slot. You notice how much precipitation we had just a moment ago that was showing up in Northwest Arkansas? The back edge of the system is already starting to show up on radar right around 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. And that right there is another limiting factor to this system. It's losing a little bit of steam as it moves off to the north and east. I do think, like a faucet, that precip is going to get cut off really quickly as that dry air begins to intrude our area. But still the potential for some heavier bands of snow in the higher terrain of Northwest Arkansas along Interstate 40 near Clarksville and Ozark right around 10, 11 o'clock. But most of the precip, I think, is going to be out of here by lunchtime. And check this out. Notice the temperatures, upper 30s, lower 40s. Any snow that does accumulate on the roadways is going to melt almost instantly. As soon as that precipitation moves out of the area, it is going to start melting, and we shouldn't have really any problems during the evening commute. In fact, despite maybe a few passing sprinkles, I think the evening commute is looking okay. You're going to want to stay bundled up. Temperatures are going to be in the lower 40s up and down the I-49 corridor. So that's one model's depiction of what we could see with this system. Again, there's multiple different solutions, right? There's always going to be that. But I think this model in general has a pretty good idea of what's going to go down with this particular system. So let's take a look at that latest 2-day forecast timeline so we can kind of get you ready for what to expect in terms of the chances for precipitation. We're going to start with the River Valley here, just give it a little bit of time to load up this morning. But here's the Fort Smith 2-day forecast timeline. Temperatures, again, borderline freezing throughout the morning hours. I do think the Fort Smith area is probably going to get about a dusting with this particular event. 90% chance of precipitation through about 10 o'clock. That's that cutoff line with those precip chances tapering off during the afternoon. Though we still have a 20% chance for a passing sprinkle or flurry overnight tonight and early tomorrow morning. So we'll watch those trends very closely. But notice these temperatures well above freezing as we move throughout the day today. Now, Northwest Arkansas, we could have a little bit more in terms of snowfall with this system. And also the precipitation could last a little bit longer. That's why we've got that 20% chance all the way up till about 3 o'clock, then cuts off during the afternoon. High temperatures, much like the River Valley, though, will be right around 40 degrees with that 20% chance of a passing sprinkle or flurry overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning. It's really going to be a gloomy next couple of days here in Northwest Arkansas. Let's check out the latest snowfall totals. I've updated this map just a little bit this morning to account for elevation, as well as the latest forecast trends. It really hasn't changed much. If you're on the weather live stream yesterday, I haven't really changed a whole lot with this particular map. You notice for the area in gray, we're expecting about a dusting to 1 inch of snow. I know that's a pretty big spread right there, but I think the lower lying areas of Northwest Arkansas, especially towards like Bella Vista, Fort Smith, those areas, I'm leaning more towards a dusting to a half inch of snow. I put that 1 inch down because we do have some higher terrain areas like Mount Sequoia, which is about 1,700 feet up. I know there's other areas just to the south of Fayetteville that also have higher elevation below 2,000 feet. So those areas I'm expecting about an inch of snow. But you notice these white outlines here. That's where we're expecting up to 2 inches of snow. So we just showed you that winter weather advisory. And it's these areas right here where really that winter weather advisory was issued for. Huntsville, St. Paul, Jasper, the usual areas that get heavier snowfall with elevation above 2,000 feet. I know a lot of folks maybe ask, what do you mean by higher elevation? Typically, my barometer is 2,000 feet or higher, and these areas right there fit that criteria, which is why we've got about 1 to 2 inches of snow expected there. Fayetteville, very close to that cutoff line. If you're in East Fayetteville, maybe a little bit more snowfall. Again, southward towards Mount Sequoia, Bentonville, Bella Vista, Eureka Springs, expecting about a dusting to an inch of snow as well. Jogging a little bit farther south, here we go. Ouachita Mountains near Mount Magazine, near the Waldron area, just southeast of Boonville, west of Danville, in Scott and Logan County. These areas right here, maybe seeing a little bit more snow. I think the precipitation rates will be a little bit lighter in these areas, so I'm not expecting that 1 to 2 inch amount like I am in the Boston Mountains. But in terms of the Ouachitas, about a half inch to an inch of snow, good bet, with lighter snowfall totals, of course, in the valley areas near Fort Smith, Greenwood, as well as Poto and Sallisaw. So that's what we're looking at in terms of snowfall totals. I want to show this other graphic here. I think this is a really, really cool graphic. I love this one from the National Weather Service. This is an experimental graphic still, and it's going to take a little bit of time for the data to load. But I see a question here. What's the scope looking like on the roads? Well, this is going to help you have a good idea of what's going down this morning, if the data will load. And here it is. So this is what we call the Winter Storm Severity Index. It's an experimental product from the National Weather Service. I believe the Weather Prediction Center releases this, and this updates about every 2 to 3 hours or so. This does have the latest information there, but notice how most locations are in that limited impact range. So this means that we're expecting winter weather during your commute, but with limited impacts expected. So slick spots on the bridges and overpasses, that's really what we're looking at for most locations, with mostly grassy and elevated surfaces seeing that accumulation. Now, notice these yellow areas, that's where the minor impacts are expected. And it's right in that higher terrain of northwest Arkansas and the Boston Mountains. These areas could see a few more impacts, not just on the bridges and overpasses, but also on those back roads, as well as on the roadways themselves. So not just bridges and overpasses, but also the roads could be a little bit snow covered, but again, with minor impacts expected. So regardless if you're in a limited impact range or a minor impact range, you're going to want to take it nice and easy this morning, because the snow is going to be falling during rush hour, right? Give people a little bit of grace this morning on the roadways. Give yourself plenty of distance between you and the car in front of you. The normal stuff that we talk about when we have rainfall. And again, even if it is starting off as rain, that could cause impacts on the roadways. Sprinkles can mix in with that oil on the roadways. So definitely it's something that we're going to be watching very closely there, and just take it nice and easy out there on the roadways. Let's get to some of the comments here that I'm seeing here. Good morning to you, Christopher from Fort Smith, Arkansas. You're really wanting a good snowstorm. Christopher, I don't think you're going to get it from this storm system, but early next week, still keeping a close eye on everything. And if you got any questions or any concerns about the system today, more than happy to answer those questions. I'm going to be on here for about another 10 minutes or so, and then we'll wrap things up. And then we'll transition our coverage to KNWA News at 5 and 6 o'clock. We're going to have the latest traffic information as well as the latest radar data on there. And then we also have Fox 24 News at 7, which you're really going to want to tune into, because that's when we're going to see the bulk of the precipitation move through northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. Here's another look at Mega Doppler. I'm going to get to more of the comments here. Brian, I see your comment. Clearly, the impact map is wildly unaware of how bad we are at driving and weather. You know what, Brian, I'm going to show you a comment right there. I mean, that's why I am concerned about it, because I-49, even when it's sunny, seems to have accidents right around 7, 8 o'clock when rush hour is occurring. So just take it nice and easy on the roadways today. Give people some grace. Give yourself plenty of distance, plenty of time to get to where you're going, and you should be fine this morning. How long do you think it will stick? So, Sydney, this is not going to be one of those big snows that just stick around for a really long time, right? It's going to be melted relatively quickly. So it's going to be a little bit of a process for it to stick on the roadways. But once we get those heavy precipitation rates, I think between about 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., that's going to be when we see any impacts on the roadways. After 10 a.m., once that precipitation cutoffs, we're already going to see that snow melt. And it's going to be a wet snow too, so it's going to favor more slushy conditions on the roadways rather than those ice patches. So just a quick round of snow, a quick round of impacts, and then it's out of here by the time we get to lunchtime. Christopher says it's been a while since we had a good snowstorm. Christopher, we actually, the most recent one obviously was last year in January, when we had that heavy wet snow. And what was crazy about that was that heavy wet snow weighed down on those power lines and really caused a lot of issues. We are going to see a wet snow with this, but thankfully it's not going to pile up like that event did. And, that event, we had temperatures in the middle to upper 20s, and that's why it piled up so quickly. With this event, it's borderline freezing. It's going to be a struggle for that, but we'll keep an eye on the early part of next week. No doubt about it. We're also keeping that on our radar for sure. Working today in Hot Springs. Are we okay on the roadways, Jason? I think you're going to be okay today, especially in the Hot Springs area. I used to live in Hot Springs, so I kind of divide Garland County into two parts. Northern Garland County, obviously near Mount Ida, towards Hot Springs Village, it's a little bit more elevated. I think there's the potential for some impacts there in those areas. But south of there, near downtown Hot Springs, lower line areas near Lake Hamilton, southeast of there towards Lake Washita, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of impacts on the roadways in Hot Springs. Now, if you're driving along Interstate 40, you could run into some slippery spots on the roadways. But again, once that precipitation swings off to the east of the area by about noon, I think those impacts are going to be very limited. Also in Hot Springs, we're going to see it transition back to rain relatively soon. My kids go to Mulberry schools. We live in Ozark. We drive them to the bus stop at 6 a.m. Should we expect a delay? So, Bethany, you're driving them to the bus stop within about an hour or so. So you might run into some precipitation. It's already starting to move into northwest Arkansas as we speak. Just take it nice and easy. I don't, you can go to our website, knwa.com or fox24news.tv. We do have the latest closings as well as weather delays on there. In terms of if the schools are going to be closed today or if they're going to be delayed, it's kind of hard for me to interpret that right now. I don't think many schools will be closed today. I think this is a quick shot of snow. Now, if there is schools that do a delayed start, I think that might be a good thing. But, ultimately that's not my call. But if you want the latest details on that, you can go to knwa.com or fox24news.tv. If you're driving them to the bus stop at 6, I think you're going to be fine. It's really between about 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. That's when you're going to have to keep an eye on the radar if you're out and about on the roads, because we may have heavy enough snow that it overcomes those marginally freezing temperatures and sticks a little bit on the roadways. But I did see some treatment on the roadways as well. I know the Arkansas Department of Transportation came up here from Central Arkansas. They put some treatment down on the road. So I really do feel like if you take it easy this morning, you're going to be fine. I feel sorry for my mother who lives in Ohio. She's getting the same system as we are here on Saturday. And yeah, that's true, Christopher. The good news is about this system, though, it is losing some steam right now. There's a lot of dry air that's intruding on the system right now. So it is going to be kind of a struggle for it to maintain its strength as it lifts off to the north and east. But I know that as well because I'm going up to Indianapolis tomorrow to go watch the Colts take on the Texans. And I know there's going to be a little bit of a rain-snow mixture up there as well. But God bless those people in Ohio. This is just what they're used to at this point. Here in Arkansas, it's always like a big event and everything. I always find it interesting how that changes the farther north you go. Let's take, if people are just joining, let's take another look at that expected snowfall accumulation map real quick. We're going to be watching the radar very close. We're also going to look at some of our WeatherBug Network cameras as well. I'll be on for about 5 to 10 more minutes or so, but here's one more time that accumulation totals. Again, nothing too crazy expected in terms of accumulations. Dusting a 1 inch, good bet for most locations up down the I-49 corridor. But again, those higher train areas of northwest Arkansas, Madison, Newton County, those areas near Huntsville, Jasper, we could see up to 2 inches of snow with this one. I wouldn't be surprised if we got a report or two around those areas, especially near the St. Paul and Jasper areas. Jogging a little bit farther to the south, Washita Mountains in the same boat, though maybe not quite up to 2 inches. I would say more up to about 1 to 1.5 inches of snow in these areas, just because the precip's going to be out a little bit quicker. But same deal in the lower lying areas of the River Valley, about a dusting to a half inch of snow expected in most spots there. Let's take a look at some of those WeatherBug Network cameras real quick. I'm interested to see if any of the precipitation is reaching the ground. I'd be surprised if it was falling very fast right now. There's the Bentonville WeatherBug Network camera, and not a whole lot going on there. It really hasn't reached Bentonville. Of course, if I pan back and forth, if I go to Megadoppler here, you're looking at radar like, whoa, there's precipitation going on in Bentonville. But then we go back to the camera, and it's not quite happening yet just because it's a little bit dry right now. But as more precip falls, we'll start seeing that reach the ground. Let's go down to Fort Smith. It does look like the precip may be a little bit more intense along Interstate 40 right now, but still no precipitation falling, though. You can definitely see the clouds. They have moved in. That is a thick deck of clouds, and we'll start seeing some precipitation very soon there. Here's our Miss Laura's WeatherBug Network camera. Not a whole lot going on there right now as well. So looks like precip's not quite reaching the ground yet in our weather coverage area, but that's going to change relatively soon as we get closer and closer to 6 to 7 o'clock. There's a Graduate Hotel camera as well. So Larry is reporting snow in Van Buren right now. Larry, let's go look at Megadoppler here. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case in the River Valley right now, just because the precip is a little bit heavier. Because if you look at Megadoppler, look at that. Much heavier band of precipitation moving through the River Valley. So it's going to transition a little bit quicker, I think, along Interstate 40, as long as that precip core lines up with Interstate 40 and Interstate 540. So we'll watch that very closely there. If you got any pictures, Larry, send them in. You can email them to us, weather@knwa.com. You can also tag us on social media. My tag is @RugsWX on Twitter. And you can also give me a message on social media. I'd love to see that snow going on there in Van Buren. And yeah, again, this is just going to be a quick moving system. Minor impacts expected in the higher train of northwest Arkansas, with limited impacts along the rest of our weather coverage area. And again, the main time frame for snow is going to be between about 7 to 10 o'clock a.m. All right, folks, I think we're just about time to wrap things up. I'm going to get ready for the shows here. Again, if you want continuous coverage, we're going to be back on again within about 15 minutes or so on KNWA. You can tune in to channel 51 there. We're going to be on at 5 and 6 o'clock a.m. We're going to have the latest traffic information, latest weather headlines, all the stuff you need to know. Make sure you also tune in to Fox 24 News at 7. That's on channel 24. That might be the show you really want to watch if you're stepping out the door right around 7 to 7:30, because that's when the snow, I think, is going to be a little bit more intense here in Northwest Arkansas. But just take it nice and easy on the roadways. Again, give yourself plenty of time to get to where you're going. Go a little bit below the speed limit, and you should be A-okay this morning here in Northwest Arkansas in the River Valley. Now, Christopher, you said it best. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the snow. If the snow lovers out there, again, you can send in those pictures to us, whether at knwa.com, and we'll have all the latest details at 5 and 6 on KNWA and 7 o'clock on Fox 24. God bless everybody. Have a great Friday.